Hi guys, welcome to this chat, this Balanced Dataslate talk. Today we're going to talk about the new Balanced Dataslate that was released and like how it changes things in the meta right now, and also, you know, like whether we think it's enough and whether you guys think it's enough. You know, weigh in at any time about any changes that you think are positive. Because obviously some things got buffed, some things got nerfed. You know, weigh in, tell us your opinion on each thing and whether you think it was good, whether you think it's a bad change, and also whether you think overall these changes are enough. Today I'm joined by Aaron. How you doing, bro?
Hi guys.
You good?
Great, yeah, good to be here. Happy to be here.
Good. Yeah, man. So both of us doing the stream today, me and Aaron, and then also Dan should be in the chat. Dan is probably lurking in the chat somewhere. He'll be typing and messaging everyone. So if you wanna talk to Dan, message him. Sylvester says, "Oh damn, Dan missing again. Coldash's gonna be heartbroken." No, Dan's in the chat. I think Dan is in the chat. Well, he should be in the chat. He said he was too ill to be on a call and that he would be in the chat, so he better be in the chat responding to you guys. If you got any questions for Dan, yeah, just message in the chat and he should message back. Oh, there you go. Look at him. See, he says, "Hey everyone," he is in the chat. Yeah, guys. If you like these streams, read this below. Go and join the elite, and you'll get streams like this every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Right, let's kick it off. It off, Aaron. Let's get straight to the point. The Balanced Dataslate. So, let's not talk about overall first. We'll talk about overall at the end, whether you think overall it is or where you know, like, see what it is. Oh, Mike Bully says, "Hi from the States." Hi, mate. It's really cool to have supporters over the pond listening into the stream. That's always really cool. Kelsey says, "Damn, Daniel." What's up, bro? Yeah, Sylvester. Dan is recovering from Nurgle's gift. Mate, Dan is Nurgle's gift to humanity, basically. Kev's in the house, says, "Man up and take a lemsip, bro." Yeah, Dan, take a lemsip, mate. You know, everyone wants to chat to you, bro. DL Racing says, "Hey everyone, me thinking that this data slate is a tiny tweak apart from AdMech." Okay. Rabbit Hole says, "Balanced data slate was good, better a small touch than can be increased in Jan than an over-the-top touch that creates new problems in a good meta." You know what, guys? I just want to start off by saying, because he's not here to chat, but Dan is of the opinion that the data slate's good. He agrees totally with Rabbit Holes there. He says a small tweak is what was needed. He says he's really happy that it was, you know, the Balanced Data Slate was only small tweaks to the very outlying factions. So, guys, GW put up a graphic a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if it was a couple of weeks ago or whether it was actually last week, just before they released the data slate. But they put up a graphic that showed the win rates of every faction. And pretty much most of them were in the 45% to like 52%. Pretty much every faction was between like a 45% and 52% win rate. There were only like 2 or 3 factions above a 52% win rate, and then there were only 2 or 3 factions below a 45% win rate. And GW said that that's the main graphic that they use. The main factor that they use to determine whether an army either needs nerfs or they need buffs, and then they go accordingly to that, which is quite cool. It's a good way of doing it. It is showing, in Dan's words, it is showing that GW care, which is true. That it looks like they're trying to do a lot more and keep up to date with the meta so that they can take action on these things, and yeah, so it looks like what they've done actually is they've left pretty much everyone in that 45 to 52% win rate. They've left all those factions pretty much alone, and then the ones at the below, like Space Marines and AdMech, they've buffed, and the ones at the top, like Harlequins and Tyranids, they have slightly nerfed. DRS, is anyone else having a glitchy stream, or just me? It looks okay from my end. It doesn't say that there's anything bad on that. It says it's totally okay. So hopefully it should be okay and no one else is having problems. Stream is good for me, says Kev. DR Racing, maybe try refreshing the page. That might help. Should be okay. William Begley says Space Marine bolters are a joke and need fixing. You know what? I think Dan and his Marines would agree to this. Yeah, bolters, man. I don't understand why a Termagaunt
Flesh
gun,
borer.
a flesh borer, is higher strength and AP than a bolter. It makes no sense. No sense, people. No sense. But yeah, so that's what Dan thinks overall. He thinks that these small tweaks by GW, giving small tweaks to the bottom factions and the top factions, are really what was needed in the meta right now. He thinks the meta is very healthy, and that, you know, moving forward in January now, you know, like January time, GW can have another look at the rules and see how it's affected, and if something hasn't been nerfed enough, they can nerf it slightly more, and if something wasn't buffed enough, they can buff it slightly more. So it's quite cool actually that they're doing that. Think for Yourself says worst data slate ever. It's a joke. Kelsey says it's buffered a few times, but that's about it. Oh, okay. Hopefully that's okay then. Kev says, I thought they would do more, to be honest, but the balance seems to be good after they hard nerfed Votan. I do agree with that, you know, guys. I think if the nerfs that we've seen at the moment in the Balanced Dataslate had come out, but Votan were still unnerfed, that would have totally annihilated the meta. Votan would have come in and just butchered the meta completely, just on their own. So that would, I think, at that point, it would have been quite terrible. Oh, actually, that is the thing. Yeah,
What's up?
the YouTube stream is saying YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I've just refreshed that. Sorry guys, just 1 minute. Aaron, why don't you walk through the first few changes?
Okay.
Because obviously there's quite a few things that are still in there from the last Balanced Dataslate. If you have a look at the first faction that's changed, what was the first one that's been changed?
The first one on my list here is Space Marines.
Space Marines.
Adeptus Astartes. So they got a little tiny buff.
And they were one of the factions that were underperforming.
Yeah.
They were one of the factions that were slightly underperforming.
38 or 39% win rate or something like that was on their chart. It was in the 30s, which is quite low.
Yeah.
Matched with AdMech. So their little change was a small change to the shock tactics secondary for all Space Marines, and it basically changed it from 3 points every turn to 4 points every turn if you did the shock tactics secondary, which is to essentially like take an objective that your opponent was previously holding. So that's what they got. They got +1 to the score each time you do the shock tactics secondary, and that's it. I think there's a lot they could have done with Space Marines.
But do you not think that that's a good change? I think that's a really big change.
I think it depends, because I mean, like if you look at something like Blood Angels have something like Relentless Assault. So now shock tactics is another better thing for Relentless Assault. But if you look at it, it's a good change. It means that they're going to get like, instead of having to do shock tactics, normally you do it maybe 3 or 4 turns during a game. You're going to get between 9 and 12. Now you're pretty much guaranteed to get 15 if you do it, 4 times, and if you do it 3 times, you get 12. So that'll equate to 3 to 6 points throughout the game, which is nice. Is that enough? I don't know, because Space Marines are not necessarily getting in close games. I think the biggest issue with Space Marines for me is the discrepancy in faction, like in sub-factions, like how like something like Imperial Fists or Raven Guard are very much underperforming compared to something like Blood Angels or Space Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a nice change. At least they get something, which is always nice for Space Marines. Well, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think at least they got something. I do think at least they got something. Now, what was shock tactics before?
3 points. It was the exact same.
It was exact same for 3 points, and now it's what? Now it's 4 points.
4 points.
So it's made a slight difference in the fact that if you only do it for 3 turns, you still get 12 points, which is it's quite big. That's a significant change. I mean, before you'd have to do it 5 times to get 15 points. Now you got to do 3 times to get 12 points. It's pretty decent, I suppose. It's only changed by a turn though. Like it was 4 turns to get 12 points before. Now it's 3 turns to get 12 points. It's not a big enough.
It's an average of 3 more points in a game.
Yes.
And 3 points in a game is not what Space Marines were losing by.
Yes.
So that won't really change their win rate that much.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 points and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, Aaron, they're finding you a little quiet, mate.
I will speak louder. Apologies. Make sure it's
I
closer.
will
Else-
speak louder.
There we go.
Hold on, I think I can up you on this a little as
You
well.
can up me, that'll help.
Okay, talk, Aaron, at normal volume.
Hello, is this better for me?
Oh, that is better on here. So
Okay, let me know if I
hopefully
need to
that should
speak
be
louder
it.
or if this is better or.
Okay. Apparently
I-
the stream is totally cool on my side now as well. That's
Okay,
it's okay.
that's good.
It says excellent connection, so
Very good.
hopefully that's not too bad. Yeah, sorry if there's any lagging, guys. If you do get lagging, just try to refresh the page. Hopefully that will be better. We do have Kelsey and and Kev both saying, "Are EC just the best thing in the game right now?"
Maybe.
Yeah, Kev says, yeah, I need to know if EC are OP so I can take them to Coventry. Kev says, real talk though, are EC just hands down the best faction in the game now? So in my opinion, no, they're not the best in the game. I think they're one of the best in the game, but I think there are factions out there that can give them a real run for their money. The thing that makes Emperor's Children so good is that they are... Okay, it says Manny's volume is pretty decent, so if I up my volume, I'm sacrificing an eardrum anytime Manny speaks. Okay, well, yeah, my volume is on that level there. I can see. Aaron, if you speak, please, bro.
Hello, is this better? Hopefully, this is a
Okay.
good volume.
Yeah, our things are going up the same. I don't know what they're even called, guys. The bars are going up by the same amount now. Doesn't matter which one of us speaks. I'll lower mine a little as well. There we go. So that should hopefully be about level now. But yeah, I actually think that Emperor's Children aren't the best. I think they're among one of the best. I think Chaos are the best though. Like
the winner of this is the Chaos faction has won this data slate,
yes.
which we'll get onto later, I think.
Yes. To be fair, actually, as well, guys, Mike Brandt, who is like the tournament organizer for Games Workshop. He runs all of the US Open events over in America. He has actually said that they will not be allowing Zinch Flamers to be souped into Emperor's Children, which obviously was a very you could have read it either way. Of course, the intent was clear of what they intended. Rules as written was totally different. But yes, Mike Brandt has come out and said, of course it's illegal. You can take Zinch Flamers in an Emperor's Children detachment, but you will lose access to the Emperor's Children trait, and also you will lose access to the stratagems. The stratagems for Emperor's Children. And of course, without those, Emperor's Children don't really function properly. So I don't think that Emperor's Children plus Flamers is the way forward now. So Emperor's Children will just be Emperor's Children on their own. But I do think that Creations of Bile plus Zinch Flamers are just as good as Emperor's Children now, if not better. So that is genuinely what I believe. I think the Creations of Bile plus Flamers are probably better than pure Emperor's Children now. That's just my personal opinion. That's what I think. How about you, Aaron? What do you think?
Yeah, I think again, Emperor's Children have a lot of tricks. I think Blastmasters and Noise Marines especially are really strong, and I think their Terminator brick is the strongest. But I think Creations have always been very strong. They've always had very high win rates, and now that Emperor's Children are confirmed to not be able to take Flamers, the fact that Creation of Bile can have the Flamers, and obviously Emperor's Children will only ever be pure, I think definitely means that they are at least as good as each other. And I think they're both very strong armies. And I think we'll have to see, because I think Flamers are not the best into things like the Terminator brick and everything like that, but the Flamers are great into like so many matchups. That I think it as you were saying as well before, that it solves something that Creations of Bile lack, which is some really decent shooting and some very extra fast moving units. I think that the Creations of Bile Flamer list is a very strong one.
Okay, that's good. I also think like the changes, like that change there to Space Marines, I don't think is enough at all. Because I think if you look at their stats, I believe Marines and AdMech were both on a 39% win rate.
39, exactly.
So they were really low. I don't think adding a secondary that's most likely going to get you 3 more points in most games, like most likely. Of course, it could get more in some games, could get less in some games, but in most
Yeah.
games, it will net you 3 points more than before.
They'll
I
probably
don't
be on a
think
false
that's going to
positive.
bring their win rate from 39% to 50%, right?
I'll be surprised if it changes like any games. If a game is won on the fact that shock tactics gave them 3 extra points.
Yeah. So
Like
I'm a little
that's
bit disappointed with that. A little bit
yeah.
disappointed with that. The only other thing as well that I'm disappointed with is the fact that Chaos didn't get any nerfs. Now, guys, this is not a biased opinion in any way, because I love Chaos. My favorite factions in order, my top 3 favorite factions in order go: number 1 is Orks, because Orks is the biggest and the best. Number 2 is Space Wolves, and then number 3 is Chaos. Like,
Yeah.
all Chaos. Everyone knows I love Chaos. Everyone knows that I love, absolutely, absolutely love Chaos. So this is not biased because I love them and I play them and I'm currently playing them, but I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't get any nerfs because I think Creations of Bile, their standard army trait for being Creations of Bile is Fight in Death. Now,
Yeah.
GW thought that was too strong on Dark Harlequins. Creations of Bile hit a lot harder than Dark Harlequins. So
Yep.
to put the same trait on an army which is more resilient than Harlequins, and also hits harder than Harlequins, to me that's a little bonkers, and they didn't do anything about it. Now, I think what GW haven't considered with that is maybe the win rates of the armies that are on like bang on 50%. Because Chaos Space Marines were one of the armies that had a bang on 50% win rate. Now, there's 2 things that I think GW have not considered when writing this data slate. The first one is that the book is new. So people
Yep.
are still figuring out what's good for those
Yep.
good for those books, right? People might not have quite got the perfect balance between the units in that book to be getting, the right win rates with them. So,
Exactly.
or the right things to be winning most games with them. So maybe their win rate is at 50% because people haven't figured out the best combo yet. And number 2, maybe they've only got a 50% win rate because the factions that are getting 52 and 54 are good right now.
Absolutely.
If you nerf those factions that are getting like 52, 53, 54% win rates, if you give them some nerfs, maybe Chaos Space Marines are going to be the ones that go up to like 55, 60% win rates now because of that. So I think GW haven't considered those 2 things when writing the balanced data slate, and I think that reflects in the fact that Chaos Space Marines got no nerfs. The Chaos Space Marines section in the data slate just says,
The Iron Warriors, right? It's still the
yeah,
Iron Warriors.
change the second bullet point of the Iron Within, Iron Without Legion trait with each time an attack is made against a unit with this trait, that attack's wound roll cannot be re-rolled. So basically, Iron Warriors have become Salamanders.
Yep.
Right? So
Which
Iron
was,
Warriors...
they already were.
Yeah. So Iron Warriors just basically got the Salamanders treatment, which they basically already were. So nothing really there, but no nerfs was surprising, especially Abaddon.
Yep.
Because guys, I've been using Abaddon. And for me, he has been insane. And I think, personally, I think he is way too good for 300 points.
Yeah.
I
And
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think everybody who is like either the same points with the same kind of role as him in an army, he is head and shoulders above that. Morvenval. Morvenval is 280 points. She does a similar role. And then Gazgul is 300 points. He does a similar role. Gilliman is 300 points, does a similar role. And Abaddon is 300 points. He does a similar role to all 3 of those characters, but is way better. So much better. Like, especially with the wound cap he has, and the fact that he can be character protected as well as having the wound cap is pretty crazy. And I think it all could have been fixed with one of 2 things. Genuinely. The first thing, I think, could have been, the way they could have fixed it, is by upping Abaddon's points by roughly 50 points, 50 to 60 points. Because at 350 or 360, he is still very, very good. He performs a similar role to all the other characters, and he is a bit better than them, but he's 60, 70 points more than them. Fair. Or, and this I think would have been the better fix, replace the infantry keyword on Abaddon's datasheet with the monster keyword.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing that makes him obnoxiously better than the rest of them is the fact that he can walk through walls. Because that's what Morvan Val, Gazgul, and Gilliman all have in common. They're all either vehicles or monsters, so they can't walk through walls, which is the punishment for being so good. And I think they could have left Abaddon at 300 points, maybe made him about 320 or something, but if they took the infantry keyword off him and swapped him with the monster keyword, I think that would have made a very, very big difference.
Yep.
So I think that's what they should have done in terms of Abaddon, I think. Oh, Dan's having a conversation with them. What's Dan saying? I think there could be an issue with the amount of use Ynnari is getting. If they don't have many games recorded with them, they might skew the results a little. Yeah, Ynnari are doing really, really well as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Ynnari have a great win rate, but they only have a very small player rate. So they have I think they had like a 71% win rate this weekend or something crazy like that. But they had a small player base, so it's very different for GW to balance it when there's such a small amount of people playing it.
Yeah. Vexed Vexed Alguides, I think it is. It says, as a Necron player, I'm disappointed I saw no adjustments to Necron secondaries, and that's my take as someone who understands that without those, Necrons go back to the negative win rate. Now, I totally agree. I think Necrons did need a tweak to their secondaries, but not major tweaks. Like, okay, their win rate was quite high right now. I think it just needed to be brought down a little. And I think that, again, I think that could have been done very, very easily. We've had this conversation on a Let's Talk Tactics before about the nerfs that they could have put in for Necron secondaries to balance them out. And they wouldn't have been big ones either. It probably should have been something along the lines of Ancient Machineries is capped at 12. Ancient Machineries should have got capped at 12. That would have dropped like 3 points off that. Fair, that's okay. And then I also think Treasures of the Eons should have been changed to 1, 2, and 3 points. Instead of getting 2 points folding 1 objective, 3 points folding 2 objectives, and then 5 folding 3. That's a bit too easy because it can be ramped up so quick. It should have been 1 point folding 1, 2 points folding 2, and 3 points folding 3. Because then most games you would have got 10 to 12 points on it, not 15 anymore. And I think that would have made a big difference. And Purge the Vermin, probably needs to be Herd the Prey.
Yeah.
If that was Herd the Prey, there'd also be no issue. And like, if you change those 3 secondaries to score 2 or 3 points less each, that's 8 to 10 points that a Necron army is getting less than they are normally, which I think would have given other armies ways into dealing with them.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have made them bad. They would still be very good, but it would have made them, given other factions a chance into them. Calcio. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say quickly. It drops them from like here's 97 points when you go first to like here's like 80 something points for going first, and then that because Necrons just really score really well, as you say, it gives other armies the chance to be able to just take over that and actually win the game compared to just being like, can I get 100 or am I going to lose this game?
Yeah. Kelsier says, okay, whilst we're on chaos and particularly Emperor's Children, illusory supplication, get that in the bin. Yeah, that's a pretty big buff, isn't it?
There's
illusory
like
is a massive. Yeah.
There's 5 prayers and an illusory supplication.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what any of the other prayers do, because all you see is illusory and then the Slanesh one, which you get for having Marcus Slanesh. Yeah, like... illusory is crazy. Ben says, do you all not think this data slate looked like a last-second rush and not well thought out? It looked very rushed with little thought to me. I do have to agree, because I like the fact that they tried to change it in the minimal way to keep the meta kind of balanced, or like bring the minimal amount down that they needed to, push the minimal amount up that they needed to, and then keep the meta balanced. I see what they tried to do, but like I say, I think they totally disregarded the fact that if they nerf the top 3 or 4 factions, 2 or 3 factions, and bring them down, there's going to be another 2 or 3 factions in there, like Necrons and Chaos, that are now going to be heads and shoulders above the rest. That I think they totally missed that. And Eldari now are fantastic as well. So
my only question was, why was this delayed? Like, it's a very small data slate, but it be delayed by like a month.
Yeah, that's pretty
the only
crazy.
thing to me that like if it was a really super detailed one, kind of like the last one we had with the Necron, like all the extra stuff, I'd be like, okay, it's understandable that it's delayed. They want to wait to see how the meta shifts. But it was a bit of a simple one for it to be delayed. So that's the only thing that like I'm like, okay, I'm not saying anything about it, but I think they could have done more with the time that they had
Okay.
to dissect some of these stats and think about, as you say, like how would it affect once we nerf Tyranids and Harlequins? Like, what's that going to then hit the others? Should we maybe address some of these more mid factions that will then be pushed up as a result? Sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. It's yeah, that's a little thing that they've overlooked there, right? Like that's why it's been. It seems like it's been just rushed a little bit quick. Um, everyone's talking about Abaddon. Everyone's calling him Abaddon. Oh my god, guys. Yeah, Dan is more typhus than anything else. He says, I think they have put more thought into it. Into into this one, I think that's meant to say, than any others. To be honest, it's not perfect, but they seem to be looking at data. Though, yeah, they are looking at data. That seems like something. Kev says, "Oh yeah, don't touch Abaddon. He's perfectly balanced." Oh, Vexed Alguides says, "Manny's the first person who pronounces my second name as I intended it." See, I know these things. The Chaos Gods, they speak to me. We've got Sylvester saying, but I think they break it if they start looking to secondaries, because some factions have all terrible secondaries. That is true. That is true. Some do. Simon says it's the disparity between the secondaries that seems to be the major issue. You know, that is that is a big thing right now, that some factions secondaries are just insanely good, and other factions like Tyranids, who have now received a nerf, but they've received that nerf and they don't have good secondaries. Not a single one. I don't think any of the Nid secondaries are especially great. To be honest, I think they're all a bit meh.
They're terrible,
right?
As a Tyranid main from a while, they are terrible.
Yeah.
Tyranids,
yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I don't think their secondaries are particularly great at all. Yeah, and that's it really. That's my take on.
Cranial is cool.
Sorry.
Cranial is cool. That's about it.
Yeah, cranial's like okay, but even that can be avoided by people, right? Like that's the problem with it. It's like you do a mortal wound to somebody in the psychic phase, or you shoot somebody accidentally in the shooting phase, and they just take their sergeant off, and all of a sudden you're not getting any points for that secondary, right?
Nid, apart from AdMech, in my opinion, I think Nids have the worst codex secondaries. Like,
Nids?
I think Nids are second last. I think AdMech are worse. I think AdMech, because AdMech's got theirs nerfed. Like Eradication of Flesh and all those stuff got nerfed.
Yeah, that's it. I think AdMech are the worst, and I think Nids are the next. I do agree with you. Calcio says, here's a wild one for you. If they kept all the faction-specific secondaries the same, but they went back to only being able to take one from your faction, how would that affect things? I think that would be really healthy for the meta.
Yep.
I think that would be really, really healthy for the meta, because look at Necrons. Necrons have 3 or 4 they take. They never take a standard secondary from the book. You pretty much always take Treasures of the Aeons and Purge the Vermin. Herd the Prey, whatever it is, yeah, right? Treasures of the Eons and Treasures of the Eons and Ancient Machineries. That's the one that I see people take in every single game. Then you basically have a choice of, do you take Purge the Vermin because you know people can't get in those quarters, or you can counter them if they do, or you could take Code of Combat for your Silent King and like your other characters to go around killing stuff. You have 4 great secondaries, and you have choice between them, and they're all for your own secondaries. But if they were forced to take some from the book, like they could only take one of those and they had to take 2 from the book, that would level the playing field a little, I think.
They could be like, okay, Treasures, which is a very strong one for their No Mercy, No Respite, but then you'd have to look at things like Engage, or things like Kill Secondary specifically. I think it would be a bit weird, but obviously there's a lot less secondaries now. Like, I think armies that have access to Psychic, I think would have a much bigger advantage, personally. But I think something like that, and adding more generic secondaries, is something they should do. I think the best way of standardizing is, like you say, go back to 1 and just add more interactive secondaries, not strangleholders into the lasts, but more interactive general secondaries.
Yeah, because that was the thing, right? They got rid of stranglehold into the last, but they didn't replace them with anything.
Nope, they just
dropped them and didn't replace it with anything. I thought it would have been quite cool if they replaced it with something. So that's That's a bit different, right? What they've done there. So, David Collette, that's Cold Ash. What a hero! He says, as the #1 Votan player in the UK, I love that he's done that. It's fantastic. I can honestly say they are only okay-ish compared to others.
Thank you for your guidance.
Hero. Vexal Guide says NIDs have been stomping with sheer power of datasheets plus codex creep alone. Yeah, basically.
And they will. They still will.
Yeah, I think they're still very good, you know. I think people will start to look at Kraken again now.
Kraken and Behemoth are going to be...
Or people are going to... Some people are going to stick with Leviathan. Monsters, and they're going to go like the German WTC build, I think it was.
Oh, like Termagants and stuff?
Yeah, like Mortal spam. I think some players will realize that you don't need the Warriors.
Zone Phobes are worse now, because Zone Phobes currently don't even get mini transhuman. They get nothing now.
They get nothing now, but they're still insanely tough. Toughness 5 with 4 wounds each and an invulnerable, and the amount of mortals they pump out, and they can choose when they come out to do those mortals. I think that's what's going to keep them up there, to be honest with you. And they give other things invulnerable saves with the imperative.
And you can do those things. You could do those mortals still in like Kraken and stuff, and like advance out 8 with a unit zone.
Yes, of course.
Like mortals where you want and stuff. I think NIDs have a lot of punch still.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you saw a list that's got like a Flying Hive Tyrant, 2 Neurothropes, 3 units of Zone Thropes, a Maleceptor, a Biovore unit, a Sporocist, 2 Harpies. The amount, all of that does fit, guys. All of that does fit, plus troops, plus like 3 units, 10 Gargoyles to go play the mission. You can get all of that in an army. And the amount of mortal wounds that pumps out is absolutely insane. So that is a top tier army, I think, and NIDs will still stomp. So I think GW they're going to get more data to review for January, right? Which is of course always good. I mean, it's going to be an ever evolving meta. They will shake things up in January again, which will hopefully be good, you know, and that should change the way that the meta's going when they do that. But I think if they keep doing it in this way, though, like nerfing the top few, leaving the middle ones where they are, then you'll always have these ones that are going to cycle above the rest until they actually start looking at it, hopefully. Think for yourself says hire Seeger and Manny and a couple other guys and let them balance the game. Obviously, GW is still a bit out of touch, right? You know, it would actually be quite cool if they took some like top players of the like ITC rankings or something like that, and you know, ask them for their opinion when they write some of these rules and stuff like that. It would help a lot, but they don't. Apparently, you know, like playtesters get a version of the book, then they send their feedback back, and then the actual book comes out and they've listened to some of the things and they've just totally disregarded some of the other things, even that they've said are broken. And yeah, it's that's a little bit of what's going on right now. But like we say, the changes are small, but they may have a bigger impact on the meta than we think.
Yeah,
you never know as well, right? Like it could actually rock the meta more than we think it's going to. Yeah, and the other change was, guys, the NID one that we've been talking about. It's basically the 2 changes at the bottom, because the first 3 changes were already there, and they haven't been taken out. So, like, the fact that your Tyrant has to be the Warlord if you take a Tyrant, and then also if your Tyrant dies, you lose all your Imperatives, those things are still in play. But in addition to those, the Leviathan, the first bullet point of Leviathan that gives all Synapse units transhuman to wound, essentially, only applies to Synapse monsters now. Yeah. So Synapse monsters are transhuman to wound now, no one else. Right? And then also change the first bullet point of the Reaper of Blitrax to say that it does a maximum of 3 more wounds, essentially. So that's not as busted, the Reaper of Blitrax. But I was talking to Dan about this, right? And Dan made a very, very good point about the Reaper of Blitrax. Actually, he said that the issue wasn't that you were making someone take 6 mortal wounds in addition to the damage. That wasn't the issue with the Tyrant. The issue was the fact that he could move 17 and then advance, then still charge and do a load of, because he can do mortal wounds on the charge, he can like do mortal wounds with the Reaper, he can get extra attacks, he can get rerolls to wound, so he can do an insane amount of damage, and then he can run away. That is the issue. Overrun is the issue with the Tyrant, with the Reaper Tyrant. Not the fact that he did like 5 mortal wounds, because he only has like 5 attacks. Plus D3, he could get like 7 attacks, but he has like 7 attacks. He's got to hit and he has rerolls of 1, I believe. So if you
Real
make him
one.
like -1 to hit, he's gonna get 1 or 2 misses. He's
Yeah.
not always wounding on 2s, so
He
you know.
brackets as well.
Yeah, so any brackets, so say he gets like 5 wounds or something like that, that's only done 5 additional mortal wounds. Capping that to 3 instead of 5, it's not a big change. It saved you like 2 mortal wounds. But like Dan rightly said, the problem was that he can run away after doing all this damage. That is the issue. They need to do something about that. They need to fix overrun in some sort of way, not do what they've done here. I think that's still of a very light nerf to the Tyrant. I think they should have done more to hurt the Tyrant there.
Reaper's still great. Obviously, ignoring face caps and still doing 3 mortal wounds is amazing. But like, even if they remove the Reaper, as you say, like you just have to go into different targets. The Tyrant himself is what's obnoxious.
Yes.
The fact you can overrun and do that. It's not the relic, and I don't think they caught that.
Yes, because this is the important thing. Like Aaron just mentioned there, yes, the Reaper of Obliterax is great. Ignoring phase caps and doing some mortals is great. Yes, fantastic. But the Maw Claws are still very, very good. They give you extra attacks. They're still very, very strong. Still flat 3 damage. They give you rerolls to wound without having to use any CPs. You would just have to go into different targets. But the fact remains, if you give him that relic instead, the Maw Claws, and you advance him, move 17 and advance him and charge other things, do mortals on the charge, get D3 extra attacks, get full rerolls to wound naturally from your, from your claws, and go and beat the hell out of something, and then overrun back, that's still going to be insanely broken. So that's the thing. It wasn't, Dan rightly said, it wasn't the relic itself. It was what the Tyrant can do afterwards in terms of running away after doing the damage. That was the issue. So, like you say, Aaron, they didn't.
Showstealer Succubus has always been a very powerful unit for doing that, for being able to consolidate out. And this has been a Hive Tyrant doing this. And
yes, but the difference as well, like you say, is the Showstealer Succubus was a big issue, and she only moves 6 inches.
You got 6. You got nerfed like twice. Yeah. Fact got nerfed I don't know how many times. Yeah. Compared to a Hive Tyrant, that Nids have only got a little tiny nerf in points. Then, like, we've seen the data slate here. Nids are still
one of the moves away triple what she moves.
And moves back 17.
Yep. He moves away 17 inches when she moved away 6 inches. So he moves triple the distance after hitting you than the badass Succubus.
Into Lookout Sir Tyrant Guard. It's like, what do you do? What do you do?
And Andrew Leonard says, just give Talos core back. Everything is right on the world again. To be honest, I don't think Talos are that bad, to be honest, at the moment. Like, they don't need to have lost core. They could give core back to something like Talos, and they'd be perfectly fine. Kelsia says, tell me Baharoth Dan isn't complaining about Overrun. Say ain't so.
Swift strikes Baharoth.
Yeah, Baharoth Dan. Yeah, Dan, look at him. Complaining about he was complaining about Overrun. He did say that was broken, but yes, I agree. Baharoth also shouldn't be able to hit you and run away the way that he does.
Yeah,
I actually don't mind Baharoth as much because he's not as hard hitting, and he's not as survivable as the Tyrant.
Yes.
So I would have no issue with Baharoth jumping away if it was at the end of the phase. If you could hit him back before he ran away. Because he does have the wound cap, so that does mean you could use him once in that aggressive tone to go in, shoot something, charge something, hit it, get it hit back, only take 3 wounds, and then jump away. And then the next time he goes in, you would have to be more careful at what things he charges because you wouldn't want to get hit before he ran away. Which I think is probably the way Baharoth should have gone as well. Like, just making him 160 points, he's still worth it. He's still worth it. He's like, you don't. I think he's still uber strong for that. So that's one thing. Okay. So there you have it, guys. That's the changes to the Tyranids and the Space Marines, the buffs to Space Marines and the nerfs to Tyranids. We then also had a small nerf to Necrons, right?
Yeah.
A very, very small nerf to Necrons, right? Because the protocols have remained, the buffs to the protocols have remained, and stuff like that. Everything has remained the same. But they've added one little comma at the end of the last bullet point that was there before with 6 extra words that hurts Necrons a little bit. So, yeah, so they still have the rule which says add the core keyword to the keyword section of the following datasheets, and then it names a bunch of datasheets. Those are all still the same. All those datasheets that gain core still gain core, and then it says all Necron vehicle datasheets. That's also all Necron vehicle datasheets still have core, but then they've added a little comma, and then the 6 words after that comma read, with the exception of character datasheets.
Yes.
So the Catacomb Command Barge, the two big ones are the Catacomb Command Barge and Zarek the Silent King do not get core anymore. So your Barge Lord is no longer core OBSEC, so he cannot do like ancient machineries or something like that for you. He's not core anymore, and he can't get rerolls to hit from his shooting from the Silent King, and he can't get rerolls to wound in combat from the Silent King. But more importantly, the Silent King himself does not get rerolls to hit for his own shooting, and does not get rerolls to wound for his own combat when he hits now. So the Silent King is not the counterpunch he used to be in combat for Necrons.
Yes.
So that is a small nerf. But I did think the Silent King was going to get a slap on the wrist anyway. I think he was just too good for his points.
Yeah, I think that's more just. I think that was always like an intent for them. I know that on the article they put the idea of the Silent King gives himself buff, but obviously the article team are not the rules team.
Yeah.
I think this is just more a bit of clarification. It solves the whole Resing Menhir's issue as well. It solves a few of those things, and it's just like the Silent King's still very strong because he still buffs everybody else. It's just that he's not going to be giving himself +1 to hit, rerolls to hit, and then rerolls to win.
Yeah.
So it hurts Code of Combat a little bit.
But that's it, right? It just hurts Code of Combat a little bit. Like, that's it. Like, the Silent King got a little slap on the wrist, but in my opinion, I thought he was going to get a little slap on the wrist, but then the secondaries were going to get hit a little bit, which they didn't. So that's the problem, right? They've done this little slap on the wrist for the Silent King, but he wasn't the issue. He was a good counterpunch. I think he was perfectly fine as a counterpunch. So they made him slightly weaker in counterpunching, which will make a slight difference. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the scoring.
If you look at WTC and a few of these events, especially places maybe not necessarily in the UK, there were a lot of pretty strong lists that weren't even running the Silent King, and were focusing on certain other things in Necrons. So those lists are completely unchanged, and then the ones with the Silent King are just slightly changed. So I don't think that's going to change Necrons in any substantial way. They just don't, as you say, they don't have as much of a counterpunch to hit back if you sort of rush them. But that was already an issue for Necrons anyway. If you managed to rush them, they already had a bit of a struggle. So I don't really think Necrons have really changed at all, really.
No, I don't think so either. Dan says, "Oh, you leave my boy out of this." I completely disagree. We should just move on.
Oh, it's fine.
Of course,
good.
of course. Vex Outguide says the Silent King and the Command Barge having core was not the problem with Necrons. Yep, totally agree. Was not the problem with Necrons, and people who thought it was are going to find out real quickly that this nerf doesn't matter. Yeah, it's going to make the smallest difference. It might mean that people don't take Code of Combat anymore, but Code of Combat you were only taking if you couldn't do Purge the Vermin anyway.
Yeah,
so I think the main ones are still going to be Treasure of the Aeons, Ancient Machineries, and Purge the Vermin, and just go and get as many points as you can. That's still what Necrons are going to do, and I think, like you say, people are going to find out real quick that Necrons are just definitely one of the best factions in the game right now, and they're going to go above. They're going to go above a 50% win rate. In my opinion, Necrons are going to go up now. Necrons are going to get a higher win rate.
Yeah, Necrons necessarily didn't have the easiest game into something like Leviathan Tyranids, for example. Now that's gone. In terms of the warrior builds and stuff, right?
Yep.
And even Harlequins got a little bit enough as well, which we get to and stuff like that. So I think that Necrons, in that sense, are just gonna, in certain scenarios, have a bit of an easier time. So interesting.
One thing that I'm not happy about, but it's a biased thing. Orks didn't get any buffs, man.
Yeah, I mean, congrats to Orks winning SoCal.
Damn it. Congrats to Orks. Congrats to Orks winning SoCal. That's a massive achievement, I think. Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. They went in there with Orks and they've just smashed the SoCal open and gone first, man. That's good on them. Good on them, man. I think that's really cool that that's happened. But I do think Orks need some help, man.
Yeah.
I do think Orks need some help to hang out there with the top boys. But maybe after this weekend, people are going to find some cool things in Orks, and you know what's making them go and win events like the SoCal and stuff like that, right? There's
Really, yeah.
must be something to be said about that. We will be looking at the results from the SoCal guys and talking about the list that did well at SoCal in Let's Talk Tactics tomorrow, which is like it says, guys, in the shameless little plug here in the the little banner that's scrolling across the bottom there, and in the description. If you join the Elite, if you join our Elite membership, you get streams like this one that we're having today every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, you get these streams. Thursday is slightly different. It's like a live chat where you can also join with your camera and your mic, and you can have a chat with us. That's pretty cool. And every Tuesday is Let's Talk Tactics, which is a stream like this. And on Let's Talk Tactics tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the SoCal event that happened this weekend and what did well and stuff like that. Right, Aaron, hit us with the nerf to Harlequins. What happened with the Harlequins?
Okay, so I'll read it out just to make it a little bit easier.
So just to clarify, guys, all the nerfs that were in there for Harlequins, like the 5 bullet points of nerfs they put in the last day slate, they're all still there. Nothing's vanished.
So Harlequin's got a little tiny change to the light Sadaf. So it reads, change the second bullet point of the Blaze of Light Sadaf characterization to read, each time a unit with this characterization makes a normal move or advances in your movement phase, in your following shooting phase, that unit counts as having remained stationary. So that's the same. But the change is this does not apply if the unit is embarked in a transport.
Yep.
So obviously, a lot of times with
Cold Ash, what a hero! He says, "Join the Elite. Do it now. Do it now. Nice one,
so a lot
bro.
of times in Harlequins, you'll have a unit of troop in a boat. In Star Weavers, it's very common in light to be able to advance 22 with Star Weavers and still shoot the pistols.
Yep.
If you advance now, the troop inside do not count as having remained stationary, so you can't fire their pistols. So basically, light have lost essentially like that little extra 6-inch range of shooting by advancing and shooting. What do you think about that, Manny? Then a little bit of a little extra nerf to light.
Yeah, I think that little extra nerf to light, I think it's a good nerf. I think it is good. They're losing that 6 inches of movement. Okay, cool. I kind of didn't like that they had boats that could move 22 inches around the board and then still shoot neuro pistols and fusion pistols out of them with no penalty.
Yeah.
That was kind of mad to me. So I think only being able to move 16 and doing it is cool. I think they've messed this up a bit, but it's quite clear their intent, right? So I think it's quite clear that they only want you to move 16 inches in boats and still shoot. It's quite clear. So I think everybody will play it that way, and TOs will rule it that way. But rules as written, they messed it up.
How do they mess it up?
Because the GW messed so many things up. Rules
what
as
have
written.
they done?
So of course it says this does not apply if the unit is embarked in a transport, right?
Right.
So the Blaze of Light ability doesn't give your troops advance and shoot in a transport. The Blaze of Light ability doesn't give that. However, remember in the last FAQ of transports, what they've done is
on the transport.
Yeah, they've said that if there's any ability on a transport, that ability affects the unit inside. Yeah. So this ability says it doesn't work on troops anymore. But the boat gets the transport ability. Then the FAQ says the boat can give its ability to the troops inside. So rules as written, it's done. This has done nothing. Rules as written, it's done nothing. But obviously, the reason it's been put in is to obviously show their intent, right? Like they want you to not move 22 and shoot. So I think every TO can see that. I just wanted to point out that they've messed it up. Here is another thing the GW have messed up.
Take your Harlequins for flamers, guys.
but yeah, I think it is a significant nerf. Moving 16 with like Harlequins and shooting is a significant nerf. But I think maybe Twilight is taking over.
So this is what I was going to say. People have already switched to Twilight in a lot of top tables, especially in the US, and have been taking boats that just move 16 and shoot, as well as having the Twilight. So whether people shift to Twilight or stay in Light, it may not be a huge difference, but I think that now Twilight is definitely going to be a lot more in people's minds, because all you're losing really is essentially, okay, the boats, you can have a Star Weaver just advance and shoot, or some bikes or something, right? Yeah. But it's losing the transmit
to run away
and the strat.
Yeah.
But trans hit is very similar to -1 to hit in a lot of scenarios. We're not
Yes.
really seeing things like custodies up there. A lot of things are hitting on 4s or 3s anyway.
Yes.
And then the strat is good, but I think Twilight, as people have been using, have a lot of options as well that overall probably exceed just getting the strat. So I think that people are probably going to switch to Twilight anyway, which means that this won't change too much for Harlequins. I think Harlequins are still going to be very good. Their secondaries being unchanged is something which is huge, because Harlequin secondaries, again, are really, really good. Take Your Places have been used by Twilight lists. Deadly Performance is incredible. Weave Veil is incredible. They can do behind enemy lines still very well.
Yep.
So I still think that Harlequins are going to be really, really, really strong.
Yeah, they're going to be really, really strong, and I think Twilight... remember when the book came out, and we were all laughing at how rubbish Twilight were compared to Light and Dark?
Because Light and Dark was so in different planets.
Light and Dark were like on a different planet compared to Twilight.
No,
So that was... It's quite funny to see how the times have progressed, right? That Twilight is in the conversation, not just in the conversation, but leading the conversation right now, which is kind of crazy. And then Richard Dodd says, do you think the Armor of Contempt should have a change? Maybe only work for AP 1 and 2. Now, yes. I do.
I have an opinion as well. I have an opinion on this as well, yeah.
I do. Because using Emperor's Children, I found that the Armor of Contempt is just silly. It is too good, in my opinion, because the majority of armies that have firepower that's meant to be dealing with infantry is AP 1 and 2. And that against now Armor of Contempt armies does literally nothing. And, maybe, it should still work for AP 1 and 2, but like AP3. AP3 should stay AP3. I mean, come on, AP3 going down to AP2 on Terminators on cover is just ridiculous. Like, if I had my Terminator brick, and my Terminator brick was on a ruin, so they were getting a 1-up save. And then, you get hit by AP3 weaponry, and you go, the first AP still leaves me on a 1-up save. The second AP puts me to a 2-up save, and your third one still gives me a 3-up save. Having a 3-up save with just some infantry against something like las cannons, I think is just totally absurd. I think it's crazy. I mean, Scarab Occult Terminators are even worse for Thousand Suns. I mean, they've got a 2-up save, then on cover they have a 1-up save, and then against 1 damage they have a 0+ save essentially. So if you shoot them with AP3 even, and it's 1 damage, first damage is ignored, so they still have a 0-up. Second AP puts them on a 1-up, and the third AP puts them on a 2-up. So if you shoot them with 1 damage weaponry, that's AP3. And you won't have very many shots of that, because AP3 1 damage is quite elite shooting, right?
Prismatic cannons.
It still gives them a 2-up save.
Yeah.
Still gives them a 2-up save. I think that's insane. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think personally, if they wanted to keep the flavor of Armor Contempt, I think that they should do something like change it to get +1 save, but then have it not stack with cover.
Yes.
Because I think when you start getting cover and stacking Armor of Contempt, that's the issue. So if you make it like, when you're shot, well, just somehow way either ignore the first AP or make it +1 save or something, but make it not stack with cover. Because then you're not forcing armies like Tau or Eldar to have to take things like Target Lock or Masterful Shots in order to just ignore cover, because of how obnoxious Armor of Contempt can be for some armies to deal with. And as you say, like when you have the Scarab Occult getting +1 save for damage 1, then cover, then having a 2-up, then getting Armor of Contempt, it's so much that stacks on each other, which some armies cannot deal with. And some armies, like you look at things like Orks again. One of the big things Orks got were that all their choppers got AP1, all the chainswords for Marines and stuff got AP1. That means absolutely nothing into a third of all the armies in the game. Well, even more, because it's Chaos, Sisters, and then all Marines, right, that have Armor of Contempt, and now even Guard with all their tanks as well. Yeah. So Armor of Contempt is a lot around the game.
Yeah.
For some armies to deal with.
Yeah. I was about to say Glasshammer Gaming says. Dan says, I like that it makes power armor special. It does make power armor special, but I think, like Aaron's saying, I think when you stack it with cover, it gets too much. I think that maybe you should still get it, but not on cover. That's really good, actually. That would make it not so obnoxious, right? I think that is a big thing to take into consideration, personally.
Yeah.
Andrew Leonard says, if you could nerf one of the recently hit armies again, Necrons, Tyranids, or Quins, which one and why? Necrons. Their secondaries just way too good now. They're just gonna make them insanely higher win rate than anyone else in the game, in my opinion. I think Necrons are gonna shoot up really high now. That's the army I would hit again if I could hit. Just with secondaries, nothing else.
Yeah, I think I'd hit Overrun for Nids. I'd hit secondaries for Quins and Necrons.
Yeah.
If I was going to make
that's if you could hit them all. Yeah.
But if there's going to be one, Necrons for sure, because Necrons are of those three are the ones that have literally probably been changed the least technically.
Mitch says I'm leaning towards Dark over Twilight. Fair. Vexal Guide says I liked Twilight. I like Twilight because I liked Frozen Stars in 8th. I used to play Frozen Stars in 8th. I liked Frozen Stars in 8th. They were really cool. They were the combat ones. So that's a cool thing. And like I say, man, I think they're gonna be right up there now. Twilight. William says, Manny, when are you going to bring Death Guard back on the channel? Oh, mate. So I'm off to Kansas, guys. I'm off to Kansas on Thursday to play in the Kansas City Open this weekend, which should be loads of fun. And then I'm back on Tuesday. And from next week, battle reports are back on the channel. They've been off for a while because we've been waiting for the Balanced Dataslate. But battle reports are back on the channel from next week. And guys, we've got so much. Death Guard are going to be on. We've got a Votan army now. They'll be on battle reports as well very soon. We've got a pure Zinch demon army. That'll be on the channel very soon. We're adding things to Dan's Necrons. They'll be on the channel soon. We've now got an Emperor's Children army. We've got a Thousand Suns plus Zinch demon army. We've got so many armies to like freshly show on the channel now, and then armies, and then those new armies going up against the armies that have been nerfed or buffed is going to be quite interesting, and then those new armies against the armies that we haven't had on in a while, like Blood Angels and Death Guard and stuff. So hopefully soon, mate, but because there are so many factions we want to show on the channel, it could take some time. Dan says, I'd like to see you shoot a Space Marine out of a ruin. It doesn't matter what gun you've got. Yeah, fair enough. Like, okay, but why does a Chaos Spawn get Armor of Contempt?
Yep.
Know what I'm saying? Bruv. But it's, no, it's true. Like, a Space Marine cover would survive a really, really long time because, like, there's barely going to be a gun that digs him out of there, right? But this is a game, and the game needs to be balanced, like not just on 4 like that,
if
you know.
If this was like that, you'd have 1 Marine and then like 4,000 Orks on the other side, and be like, "This is balanced."
Yeah. Oh, Mitch says, I want you to get JT to come back. Funnily enough, you should mention that. JT actually messaged me yesterday on WhatsApp saying that he was thinking about getting back into the game with his Orks, so that's pretty cool. But guys, my favorite thing about this data slate. You should all know what it is. This side of this page. Can you see what's on that side of that page, Aaron?
I don't see much.
Nothing, right?
Exactly.
Nothing! That's so good. You know what side of the page that was? That was the AdMech side of the page. And there were loads of AdMech nerfs on that page, and now it's just a blank piece of paper. Yes.
The 2 remaining nerfs were removed.
I gotta admit, I am happy about that though, because AdMech were they were nerfed, they were double nerfed, they were triple nerfed. Everything about AdMech got nerfed, and I'm so glad that they've undone those nerfs now because they needed it, right? They were just they were down in the ground, man. They were down in the ground, pounded into the dirt. Were AdMech, and I think this has pulled them back up a little. They're not going to be insane win rates still, but they might be able to give the meta armies a decent game because their secondaries are still trash. Their secondaries are still rubbish, but taking away some of those nerfs helps a lot because some of those nerfs were just insane. Like when you looked at the amount of CPs that you've lost now because of Nephilim rule set over what's the other one called? The last one?
Nachmund,
yeah. The Nephilim CP change over Nachmund hurts quite a bit. So all these things that have come in hurt AdMech a lot, but their nerfs were just left in the whole time. So I actually do think AdMech are going to make a little bit of a resurgence, and I can't wait to get mine back on the channel. Yep, Vexal Guide says Lucius back on the menu, boys. Yeah.
Back to cover.
Yeah, man. I started with Lucius, man, right at the start. When everyone was playing Mars, at the very start of the edition, very start of when the Codex came out, when everybody took the like 60 AdMech troops and then 6 planes, I was playing my Lucius infantry, guys. I loved my Lucius infantry, so seeing them go back to the start is very cool. I'm happy about that, and I can't wait to get those back on the channel.
And 4 up for galvanic modifier, right? 4 forced to hit auto wound. Very good.
Boy. Yeah, that being back to forced hit auto wound and 1 CP is baller. But you know, like with things like Armor of Contempt coming in, because they were AP0 guns, and I was making them AP1 with the Manipulus, right? That is now nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. So they're still got bad secondaries and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come in to the meta now. William says, what army are you taking to Kansas? Now this is pretty interesting. So there are still 2 to 3 armies that I am toying between taking to Kansas, and I am not quite decided which one. And I think it's going to be a mad rush on Thursday morning with Aaron to fully decide which army it should be and pack that army into a case and go straight to the airport on Thursday. That is literally the situation I'm going to be in. But list submission is on the morning of the event. List submission is on Friday morning, so I don't have to be super concerned about it, which is quite cool, and I can just wait right till Thursday to make a final decision and go. But Chaos Space Marines are winning right now. The choices I have is Creations of Baal plus Flamers. I will not be taking my Emperor's Children, guys. I'm not going to take pure Emperor's Children. I don't think pure Emperor's Children can play against Tau on that terrain. So I don't want to go there with one solid bad matchup that I can't really do much about in the back of my mind. So I'm not going to be taking pure Emperor's Children. I think Creations of Bile plus Zinch Demons is an option for me. Also, Thousand Suns plus Zinch Demons is another good option. I like Thousand Suns. I really like Thousand Suns coming out of this data slate. So I might rock with those. And the third one that's really playing on my mind is Kraken. Like Kraken Nids are still very good. They can pump out a ton of mortal wounds. They can play the secondaries better than Leviathan Nids. And man, Ravener combat is still insane. AP5 Ravener combat that can get around Armor of Contempt. That's still very good. So those are my 3 choices, guys. That it will be one of them that you see me take. Creations of Baal plus Zinch Demons, Thousand Suns plus Zinch Demons, or Kraken Tyranids. It's going to be one of those 3 armies that I take to Kansas this week. And obviously, guys, keep supporting me. I'm going to be going over there, show you support and stuff. Keep checking the channel, because I'm going to be putting up loads of updates and stuff like that. So that should be pretty damn cool.
Take Orks. We know you want. We know you want.
Take Orks. Oh my god, that would be incredible, wouldn't it? If I could take Orks, that'd be amazing. And Ash says sad robot noises for AdMech. The change doesn't really do anything for their issues. Their points went up, planes are still limited, and secondaries suck. That is true. That is true. But we'll see how it affects them. Mario says take a consideration for Space Marines. Yeah, I am thinking about Space Marines. Yeah, not normal Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines is what I'm thinking about. Yeah, but yeah, I think normal Space Marines need a bit more buffing. Oh, to be fair, he says no Armor of Contempt for Space Marines. Are you killing them? No, what we're saying is Armor of Contempt is great, but it shouldn't stack with cover.
Yeah,
that's when it gets a bit ridiculous.
Space Marines should get buffs in other areas.
Yes,
and I don't think Armor of Contempt was the way to balance them, because you have things like Sisters who have benefited huge from Armor of Contempt, and then you have things like Imperial Fists that with or without Armor of Contempt doesn't do anything. And I think Armor of Contempt just is not the way that Space Marines needed to be buffed. I think they need to be buffed in certain areas in certain ways, and I think Armor of Contempt as a whole should stay, but should be changed when they do those buffs.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it.
Yeah.
So that is the Balanced Data Slate, guys. That is everything they've changed in the Balanced Data Slate, how we think it's going to affect the current meta, and whether we think it's enough or not. So personally, I don't think this data slate was enough. I think they've overlooked certain aspects that we've covered in the stream of what they should have been should have been paying careful attention to when fixing and bringing in these changes. I think because they've overlooked them, I think we're going to have different armies that come out on top with the win rates now. I don't think they've balanced it. I think they've pushed certain armies down that were keeping other armies in check, and now those other armies won't be being kept in check anymore. Emperor's Children, guys, are going to explode. Emperor's Children are going to explode on the scene, man. And so are Creations. I know a lot of players, guys, who weren't taking Creations of Bile on purpose because they thought that they were going to get the Dark Harlequin treatment, like Aaron.
Me.
Aaron was playing his pure demons, and he was keeping away from Creations because he thought they were going to get the Dark Harlequin treatment, right? Like everyone did. Loads of people thought they were going to get the Dark Harlequin treatments. They weren't playing them. Now you're going to see Creations of Bile, guys. You're going to see Creations of Bile with Flamers come in now a lot. So they're gonna blow up on the scene now. So I personally don't think it was enough. How about you, Aaron? What do you think? Just to round it off at the end, do you think it was enough?
I agree it was not enough. I think that they're on the right track to looking at the measurements and actually, as Dan said, paying attention. But I think that they've missed the mark in certain ways, both in secondaries and, as you say, in how this will affect the armies that are just under the top. Because I think that, as you say, things like Tau, things like Chaos Space Marines are going to be pushing a lot up. Things like Necrons and Tyranids and Harlequins are still going to be doing very well. And then there are still the armies at the bottom, like Orks or Custodians or GSC, that are lower down, that haven't really been given anything. So I don't think it's going to be as much as I would have liked, or as exactly how I would have liked it. But, any change to the meta is interesting. As you say, we're going to give it time to see what happens. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these changes affect overall, really.
Definitely. William says, Kraken Nids, Manny. See, that might well be what I take. That might well be what I take. I have everything for Kraken Nids. And I've got my Sporosist now. I've got the double Harpies. I've got the 9 Zone Thropes. I've got a Maliceptor. I've got so many things to make that Mortal Kraken Nid list work. So that might be what I rock up with there and see how it does. Ren40k says, I'll see you there, Manny. Funnily enough, taking Tau. Yeah, I'll see you there, bro. Should be really, really good. And see, that's exactly where I don't want to take pure Emperor's Children.
Take Riptides.
Because they're going to struggle against Tau, in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. Like I wanted to say, guys, thank you very much for watching the stream. Stream was a bit of a taster of what we do as part of the Elite service as well. If you've enjoyed the stream, guys, like it says below, to enjoy streams like this on a bi-weekly basis. I think bi-weekly means twice a week, but it could mean once every other week. Who knows? No. So yeah, twice a week, guys. Yeah, we do streams like this every Tuesday and Thursday evening for Elite members only. So if you've enjoyed the stream and you want to get in on the action, then click the link in the description and join the Elite, guys. And like we say, thank you very much for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll be doing a few more Freeview live streams like this as well, because it's nice to see the interaction with you guys. And we will catch you soon. Happy Diwali and Bandi Chor Divas for anybody out there, all of our Glass Hammer fans that celebrate those festivities. I'm off to go join my family to have loads of awesome food and do some fireworks for Diwali. See you later, guys. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, guys.